Hello, I'm Carla Hayden, the Librarian of Congress, speaking on the occasion of the 20th National Book Festival during the 220th birthday of the Library of Congress. And we have a lot of anniversaries and things to celebrate, and that's why I'm happy to recognize the 100th anniversary of Scholastic. And here with me to celebrate and to give us some insight into what makes 100 years of a company that is the gold standard, really, for literature and bringing ideas to young people is Mr. Dick Robinson, the chairman and the CEO. You may not know, and I'm going to just say it, Mr. Robinson, that Scholastic is the largest publisher and distributor of books, information, and educational materials for young people in the world. So, welcome, Dick.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Hayden, Carla. And it's just a privilege to talk to you on these so many anniversaries, but including that of Scholastic, which is going to be 100 years in the late part of October. And because we deal with young people, our eyes are always on the future because it's
That's right.
the kids what are they learning today that are going to help them build the world of the mid 20th first century that they're going to be living in and directing not very long from now.
And I just want to take this occasion as we're talking about anniversaries and the 20th Book Festival, that's Scholastic, and to thank you and Scholastic for being a sponsor since 2001. And it has made quite a bit of difference. Your authors have been part of the book festival as they are right now, and it really has helped make the book festival one of the largest and most significant in this country. So thank you.
We're very proud of that almost 20 years of being part of it and from the beginning. And it really is a kind of like what Scholastic thinks it is to kids because we're out there in the schools in direct contact with kids, and it's our relationship to kids and teachers and parents, which is what you also see at the book festival because you've got lines of kids and waiting to meet the wonderful authors. And that's kind of our thing. What we do is to, reach into the lives of kids through the schools primarily and bring books to them. So that's very much the character of Scholastic as well as the book festival that's been so successful.
And you mentioned beginnings. This is the 100th anniversary of Scholastic. But how did it start? I understand your father started it.
Yes, my father wanted to be a publisher, and he didn't quite know what he wanted to publish, but he knew he wanted to be a publisher, and he wanted to be a publisher of magazines because this was 1920, and magazines were just beginning to be uh, of great interest to people, and all the major magazines of the 20th century were founded in the early 1920s, including Time magazine and Reader's Digest, and many of other similar magazines were born right about that time. So you could say that it was kind of the internet of its time. I mean, people wanted to publish magazines and get them out there and reach people in all parts of the country. So he knew he wanted to be a magazine publisher, but he didn't know what he wanted to publish until one day he went into he was writing publicity for the Chamber of Commerce in Pittsburgh, which is where he was from. He went to college and then came back to Pittsburgh looking for something to publish because he wanted to be a publisher. And he went into the superintendent of schools office, and he noted a chart on the wall that showed the enrollment in high schools going up dramatically, projected enrollment in high schools. And so he thought, hey, there's a market that's growing. Maybe I should do something for young people in schools. And that was the origin of his idea. He then got some teachers and principals together and asked them, well, what do you need? What can I do for you? And eventually they said, we need information about the contemporary world, which was, of course, just after World War I at that point. and our books are old from the 19th century, and we're getting more kids, and the kids want to know what's going on now, and how can we prepare for the future. And so that's what you should bring us: combination of literature and social studies, so to speak. History, social relations, so forth and so on. And that's what he did. And he set out to publish a magazine called The Scholastic, and it was aimed at upper high school kids who were, a growing part of the population. And it brought to them news and information, and eventually fulfilling a mission that he developed over his lifetime, which was preparing kids to be successful in running a democracy, right? So his goal was help people think, help people understand, give them information, teach them how to manage information and think clearly, and understand the importance of facts and what goes on in our current world, both in literature and in uh, social relations, and how to build a society. That remained his goal all the way through his life, was to promote uh, the future success of democracy by helping kids prepare for understanding the world better and knowing how to operate collaboratively and together. And that was his mission. I remember his when I was, let's say, 7 or 8. I would be waiting for him to come home, but he always came home with a whole bunch of manuscripts of what was going in the magazines. And he would sit there. I would try to talk to him, but he was, editing his manuscripts while he was also paying attention to me. And so that's how I kind of became introduced to this idea of magazines for kids, relating to the contemporary world.
It's so interesting hearing you recount that history of how Scholastic started and your dad, uh, right after World War One, when that opened up so many things for this country, and the idea that an informed citizenry and young people being future citizens would be helpful for democracy. It sounds like a lot of the things that we're talking about today with different mediums, but definitely that idea of getting information and getting facts. He was quite ahead of his time.
Well, fortunately, he had a sort of a basic understanding coming out of the First World War, and I think many people of that generation did, and they saw how, these wars would break out all over the world, and how, um, dictators could rise and so forth and so on. And so it was central to the way they looked at the world, that we had to, you know, improve our society and make it better in order to enable it to survive. And that idea continues, and I think the schools take this very seriously. It's part of what they believe that they're there for, and they are, to help kids figure out how to work together and look at facts and information, and enable them to collaborate and work in groups to solve common problems.
So the connection with the education systems is very strong, and with teachers who are the first real people that, after in the home, to introduce young people to the world and the concepts and things like that. That connection with the school systems has always been strong.
Yes, and teachers were the users of the magazines. In other words, the teachers who believed in this particular approach of bringing the contemporary world into the lives of the kids, and using the contemporary world to sort of illuminate their teaching of the past. Those teachers really knew how to do this, and were often, you know, great believers in these magazines and users of them, and that's how the company really got started. A little bit later, when paperback books were coming into society after the Second World War, we got the second piece of this, which was books. And uh, as a former librarian, as a current librarian, and a children's librarian when you started, you're probably aware that there weren't very many books in circulating in our society until after the Second World War. There were a few children's bookstores in Boston, New York, and Chicago, and San Francisco. There were school libraries, but there weren't very many. There were hardbacks, and there weren't many of them. And it was the books in the home were almost unknown because there just weren't enough of them. And so, using the same idea of teachers in classrooms, my we Scholastic decided to bring books, paperback books, into the schools through clubs, book clubs, where the teachers would, show the kids what books were available through the book clubs, and then they would collect the money from the kids. 25 cents was our normal price in the 1950s. And the kids would be able to buy books. And actually, that was the way that books came into the lives of most kids at that point, because there still weren't that many stores and not many books available to them. And that's the second part of the company and how it grew. And the, sort of the heartbeat of the company is being in the schools and in the classrooms with the kids, and the teachers who were, and all kids have to go to school. It's the only place in our society where all people gather and are required to go. And so you talk to everybody. All the kids are there, and all the kids have the opportunity to choose books that they like and want to read, which increases their desire to finish the book and learn more from it and have more understanding from it and have more excitement and fun with it. So that becomes all part of the process of Scholastic reaching into the lives of kids, which makes us a bit different from other publishers, although later we became publishers of ourselves of books. Yeah.
Mr. Robinson, throughout your career, you have been at the helm of an organization that has encouraged young people to read and to get pleasure from quality materials. And in 2017, the National Book Foundation gave you its highest award. What did that mean to you?
I think the reason that I got the literary and was selected to get it was they recognized the value of Scholastic in book promotion, outreach, reaching into the lives of the kids, getting kids excited, the very things you just mentioned, and the process of reading, as well as the content of reading and the excitement and joy of it. And it was really our ability to reach out into the lives of kids and find all kids and bring books at really rather low prices too, which is critically important in our distribution system, into their lives so they could reach them, get them, hold on to them. And this is true today. It's still not that easy, even with all the great ways that we have of distributing books in the United States. If you're a child in a rural area or in a school without a lot of resources, there might be a great librarian there to help you, but there's not always the availability of books. And that was something that Scholastic was able to do through clubs and then later book fairs, was bring the books into the school and let the kids see them and read them and get them involved with books. And of course, the great stories, helping kids to get excited about who they are and how they can develop and how do you succeed and what are the stories of people that are successful and the courage and the resilience and persistence that you have to have in order to succeed, the characters that we have brought to them, such as the characters of Harry Potter or Katniss Everdeen in the Hunger Games, and kids or people who have teenagers or young people who have lived in the world and coped with it, and that is so important to kids to be able to connect their lives to these stories and figure out how can they take advantage of what other people have learned and done, and that of course is what you know better than anyone as a children's librarian, of how characters can be shaped and lives can be changed by a child understanding that there's something beyond the immediate world that they're in, and that they can learn about other things through pages of books. And that becomes so important to eventually to the adult readers, and therefore the National Book Foundation uh, trying to ensure that there will be readers in the future. We're identifying Scholastic as one of the reasons that kids become readers and lifelong readers, and therefore benefit the publishing industry and the book distribution industry. But it's all come down to our ability to reach into the lives of many kids through this, largely through the schools, through clubs and fairs and other methods, including the purchase of educational materials uh, that bring books into the lives of kids and make them available right in classroom libraries, and therefore open up worlds to them that they otherwise would not have available to
And another part of that is to encourage authors and illustrators. And Scholastic, and I think your father started literary awards or art and
them. Yes.
author awards.
Well,
What?
it was for teenage. It was for creative young people in school, called the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards, and so it was in a sense a contest that where kids would enter under the supervision of the teacher, whether art or English and writing and literature teachers, and that started off slowly, but it was a contest, and he was also making sure that the teachers understood that it was his magazines that were sponsoring the contest, and therefore it created more interest in his magazine. But it became a separate passion of his, and it's still characteristic of the company, to find the most creative young people in the United States and honor them and reward them and recognize them. So, and literally thousands of writers and artists and people who wound up being household names of both writing and art. Um, it's that recognition that they got from the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards that as a 17-year-old or a 15-year-old or a 12-year-old even, somebody is saying, you're good. You can do this. You're creative. You can be successful. And you won this prize and you can go on further. And this often leads to scholarships to, especially on the art side, to art schools, which, there can get 4-year scholarships to go to an art school and then learn really to increase their craft and capability through these awards. And meantime has brought us the book Saplings, which is the first book Scholastic published in 1926, which was all made up of student writing of that year, and then similar ones followed. But it's a really a talent identification program for creative young people, and the one thing that again the teachers that he talked to about doing this always said, we need recognition for our creative young people just as the athletes get it. So 100 years later, when we talk to the creative kids who win these prizes, and they come to Carnegie Hall in New York to get honored along with their parents and teachers. Uh, that's the one thing they all kind of laugh at, because it was 100 years ago we were trying to find ways to honor creative kids compared to the athletes, and that's still what the story is today. It's
It still
hard.
is.
Yeah.
And as the true librarian, I looked up some of the winners of these the awards, and you were very low key about saying some went on to be household names. But I have here Truman Capote, Andy Warhol, Joyce Carol Oates, Lena Durham, Zach Posen, and Stephen King.
uh,
Yeah, and the judges too. Langston Hughes.
Langston Hughes was
The
and
poet was a judge.
yeah, and Romare Bearden, was a judge of the writing awards, and I remember meeting him and William Saroyan also. So there were great luminaries among the judges as well as among the student award winners. And it's been a wonderful program. It continues. 300,000 kids participate each year in this in 100 different local, regional contests, and then the winners, are selected nationally.
What does this mean to you personally? I know your father, it became a passion of his, and now with you continuing on the tradition that you're providing materials for young people, but you're also nurturing their creativity and
Yes, exactly.
ingenuity.
Yeah, and even though not all of them win, the fact that they participate is the critical factor. Uh, the recognition that they get from winning often propels them to go further, but all kids, by participating in these contests, are developing their creative skills and being honored for their creativity, which is very important, of course.
That's one of the themes of the book festival this year. And to think about the fact, and you mentioned that I started as a children's librarian and always a children's librarian of heart. Scholastic was the publisher of the first book, M.C. Higgins the Great, that was received the Newbery Award, and the first African American, Virginia Hamilton, and what it took to make sure that that book was not only published, but then to receive that, it's like the highest honor in children's literature, was really something. And you knew her and nurtured her career at Scholastic.
Well, I don't know whether I nurtured her. I did care a lot about her, and I found her to be a remarkable human being, warm, uh, very much in tune with people's emotions, um, very uh, caring and respectful of everybody. But first and foremost, a great storyteller. And so her books reached all people through the greatness of her craft. But the fact that there were African American characters in them was extremely important uh, to readers. But all readers enjoyed the story that she created, and of course she wrote many other wonderful books. Uh, but as I remember her, it was for her uh, warmth and her understanding of people and how they worked. That was so characteristic of her when you talked to her, and you could see in her as she was talking to you how she would craft her characters and develop her themes and use her storytelling gifts to bring everybody into her world. She was one of the greats for sure, and I was very happy when she got the Newbery. She
Oh, yes. And now you have other award winning and the most popular authors. You have, of course, the author of Dogman, Captain Underpants, just 4 hours at a book festival, National Book Festival, Mr. Pilkey. And then Clifford the Red Dog and Harry Potter and the Hunger Games, the Babysitters Club. That one was really popular when I was a child.
and it's coming back because
Yes.
being issued as a graphic novel, and there's also a wonderful new television program on Netflix that's supporting it. So, and a multicultural cast, and it's very smart and very up to date, and the books are just doing very very well. But when you talk about all those characters, what impresses me about them is that they're all about the things that kids love and care about. And there's often stories about kids. That is the growth of Harry Potter, 7 books, 7 years, from 11 to 18. Katniss Everdeen, the lead character in the Hunger Games, um, these are young people that are discovering themselves and encountering the difficulties of the world, and that's where I think the connection that is created to young people come from those characters that are like every man. They relate to the characters, and that is why they're so popular. And it comes out of the fact that we sell books directly to kids, and therefore we know exactly what the things are that they are most excited about. Is not always the same thing that the librarians are excited about, and
No, or want them to do.
you're
Yes.
among the unique librarians, and there are many of them who do understand uh, how kids work and what they care about. But Captain Underpants is always there were always a few librarians who didn't like the grammar and thought the characters were a little disrespectful and so forth. And
Oh,
not you, and not most, but there are always some.
but you understand.
Yeah, but it's about the kids and the kids' joy and the kids' laughter and fun and connecting with those characters. That's what I think characterizes the scholastic approach to finding books and stories that kids like. It's the ones that are closest to who they are and what they are interested in.
And I've had the experience of seeing so many reluctant readers or kids that had negative experiences with books, but then when they pick up Dogman or Captain Underpants, yes, the language and it gets them to enjoy reading. And once you get the reading bug, it's hard to get it going and get rid of it. Also, with Clifford, the Big Red Dog, at one of the book festivals, I had the real good occasion to be with the personification of Clifford and to see the kids go up to him and hug him and do that. He was a rock star
So,
at
well,
the book festival.
there again, that was a book that was rejected by 10 publishers before Scholastic got it. And one of our editors, because she knew what the kids liked, uh, said that this is going to do really well in our clubs. And that was 55 years ago. And Clifford is still selling well because the kids love this dog that makes mistakes. I think that's the real thing.
Yes.
Not only is it big, but he makes mistakes. He blunders, he knocks things over, but he's always apologizing and he's happy, and he gets out of the trouble that he creates, and they love that because they or feel that way themselves, many of them.
Right.
And so that's the basis of the connection to Clifford and why they love him so much.
And that's why Dave Pilkey is so popular as well, because his characters, and he has been so generous during the pandemic with his time and letting people into his studio and encouraging young people. And he personifies the theme, American ingenuity. And when you think about what Scholastic has done in terms of encouraging authors and illustrators, encouraging young people, what does that mean to you? American ingenuity, because that's what Scholastic's been about from the beginning.
I think it's just as what I've been saying. It's sort of finding a way to get directly into the lives of the kids that makes what we do unique. Because we're not, kids otherwise go to a library, which is wonderful, and many kids prosper and love libraries. But many kids don't go into them, or don't. Increasingly, they are much more accessible to young people, fortunately, and I think that is changing a lot, especially in the early childhood area. Um, but bookstores can also be somewhat forbidding if you're not a book reader already. You may not necessarily, if you can find a bookstore, you may not necessarily go into it. But it's bringing the ingenuity that I think is represented by what we do is, getting into the lives of kids, helped by teachers and schools, getting people into our clubs and fairs, and where they can have personal connection to the books and love them and find them and do all the things we've just been talking about. So I think that's, if we have something to contribute on the ingenuity thing, I think that's part of it.
I think you do, and you've been able to make sure that Scholastic has been able to keep young people interested in reading in this high-tech age, and have evolved and used different techniques and been very much a part of that ingenuity and getting them to still be excited about reading in this. And so I just hope that you know that so many educators, librarians, parents, caregivers, and young people appreciate what Scholastic has done over these years.
Thank you. I think we definitely hear from people who uh, went to a book fair as when they were young people, now have their own children, and now are reliving the experience of what it was like for them years ago, and enjoying the sharing of that with their own kids. There is a sign in front of a store in Brooklyn that says, um, I've spent all my life chasing the high of the Scholastic Book Fair," and that kind of captures some of what you're talking about.
Well, thank you so much for sharing this time with us and also for all you've done. And we really appreciate you being part of the National Book Festival. And congratulations on 100 years.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Hayden. I so much appreciate it, and I so appreciate your warmth and support and understanding of young people, and how easily you talk about them, and how clearly you feel connected to them. And I think that's such an important thing in our society, is to make sure there's outreach to young people and encouraging them, because it's not that easy being a young person in our society today. And so it's great that you are bringing that same spirit, both through the book festival and through your work as the Librarian of Congress. And it's a great honor to have you in that role, and to be able to work with you and talk with you today about how do we get kids engaged in knowing more about themselves and the world, and growing up to be citizens, parents, and contributors to our society, which is so important to all of us right now.
Well, thank you. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.